In this video, you and I together are going to be solving a React technical challenge. Essentially, we're going to have to build a simple application and we're going to have to find a simple and elegant solution to the challenge of the problem. I'm honestly really excited because I don't get to do this that often, and this is a great opportunity for us to learn and to become better React developers. And speaking of becoming a better React developer, if you haven't heard, I have a free newsletter called Import React. It's obviously all about React, and you get tips and tricks that you won't find anywhere else, and you can use it to stay up to date with everything that is going on in the React world. If you're interested, once again, it's completely free, and I'll leave a link for you in the description to check it out. I highly recommend it. Now, let's solve the React technical challenge. All right, cool. So first, I just want to give credit where credit is due. This challenge is not my idea. It comes from this website over here. You have 7 challenges to do before a React interview. And we're going to be solving this one, a memory game, right? So this is going to be the one here. Now, this is not a sponsored video. They do have a paid option, which essentially just gives you the solutions to the problems. But honestly, you're going to watch the video. I'm going to give you the solution for free. So I'm better than them, right? I'm just kidding. We're going to be building this, a memory game. Essentially, I think we've all seen this. You have a couple of images and you have to tap on them, and then you're going to get an image revealed, and you essentially have to find the matches, the pairs within those, and your goal is to kind of find all of them. We have here some introduction, but it's not really relevant. What is relevant for us is that we need to create a component over here that has an array of images as props, and then we're going to use those images and then essentially build out the logic from there. And essentially our game should look something like this in the end. Cool, let's build it. All right, so what we have here is I just have the memory game component set up, and then we have here our array of images. I just copied this directly from the website. And then we have our component over here, which just has its props, and then it receives the images as an array of strings. It returns null. And then we have this shuffle array function, which you don't need to worry about, but we're going to use it in this component. If this was a real interview, this function would be provided to you. So again, don't worry about it. All that it does is it just shuffles a array. Cool, so let's begin. So let's think about this. How do we want to solve this memory game? Let's go back here to the website and have this as a reference. We're going to need to have an array of images, right? But the first thing that we kind of want to do is we want to duplicate the images, because every image that we receive needs to have a double of it so that we can actually match it together, right? The whole point is to match 2 of the same images together. So we're going to need to put that in some sort of state. But also we have to have a better state than just the images, because we're going to need to track if an image is flipped or not, and also if an image is matched with another image or not, because based on those properties we're then going to have to ignore a click, right? If we click an image that is already flipped, it should not do anything. If we click an image that is already matched, it should also not do anything. So the first step for us is to come in here and to actually define a type, and we're going to call this our type of a card. So type of a card, because these essentially are going to be cards, right? Cards that contain images. And in here, what we're going to do is we're first going to do ID is going to be of type number, because we're going to need to use this ID to uniquely reference each card. And then here, cursor is already kind of telling us exactly what we want. We want an image URL, and then we also want a state for is flipped and then a state for is matched, which are going to be both Booleans. Cool. So now with this, what we want to do is essentially put an array of cards into our state and then build that array from this array of images over here. We're going to pass the image URL over here, the image, and then we're going to default both of these to false. And then we're just going to set the index as the ID, because we don't need anything more sophisticated than that. So we're going to come in here and do const cards and then set cards. And this is going to be an import from React. We're going to use useState and we're going to pass it as an array of cards. Now, what we don't want to do here is we don't want to initialize this to an empty array and then as cursor is suggesting to us, then use a use effect to then actually populate the cards and then put the index and all of that. We don't want to do this, because if we did this, what would happen is initially on the first render of this component, our cards would be an empty array, which they shouldn't. We already have the images over here, so we don't need to populate this with an empty array on the first render and then await for a use effect to actually update those, right? We can do it directly in this use effect, in this use state call, by providing here a function instead of some default value. So here in this function, what we can do is essentially we can duplicate all of the images, then we can shuffle them, and then we can map over each image to then return this object over here that is going to have all of our properties. Cool. So we're going to do const duplicated images, and we're going to just duplicate the images here. We're just going to put the images and then the images. Then we're going to do const shuffled images. We're going to shuffle the array of the duplicated images. And then for each individual image, now cursor is correct. We are going to map over the image. We're going to pass image URL and then the index. The index is going to be the ID. The image URL is going to be the image URL. And then we're going to put is flipped and is matched both to false. And then that is what is going to be returned as the initial value of this cards array. So now on the first render of this component, the cards is going to be an array of all of these cards over here that match exactly the images that we provided. Cool. So now that we have this, what I want to do is just come here and take some markup just to make things look exactly like we want them to look. Again, markup is not really that important, so I'm just going to do it here. I'm going to come here and do this, and then we're going to save this, and I'm just going to comment out this and kind of walk you through what is happening. So essentially, we have a div here that is a grid. We're going to put 4 columns in the grid, and then we're going to take our cards and we're going to map over each card. We're going to pass the ID as a key. On click, we're going to have to handle the card click, which we don't currently have that function implemented. That's fine. Then we're passing here some class names. And then if the card is flipped or if it is matched, we're going to rotate it and then change its background color. Actually, its background color is going to be when it's not flipped or matched. And then if the card is flipped or the card is matched, we're just going to render the actual image. And here we're just passing some styles as well. Nothing too complex, no logic is here. It's just markup and actually rendering some CSS classes based on the actual state of the card. Cool. So now what we need to do is we need to handle this function here. What happens when we click on a card? We have handle card click, and we're going to pass it here, the actual card. So let's come in here and let's do function handle card click. And here we're going to do card, and this is going to be card like this, and I'm just going to default it here. So going back here, what do we want to do? Well, first of all, we want to check if the card is flipped or if the card is matched, because again, I mentioned this before, if we click on a card and it is already flipped, we don't want to do anything. And if we click a card and it is matched, we don't want to do anything. So in our case, clicking on this one or this one or this one or this one should not do anything. Clicking on this one, and this one, and this one, because they're not flipped, they're not matched, should do something, should flip them, right? So that's our first step. So let's come back here to cursor, and the first step we're going to do if card.is flipped or card.is matched, then we're just going to return and we're not going to do anything. That's our first step. Then once we have that, it means that we're not clicking any one of these here. Then what we need to do is we need to take the card, we need to find it in a state, and then we need to flip it, and then we need to set that state once again to have the update of the card that is flipped. So we're going to do that, and we're going to come in here and we're going to do set cards, and then we're going to pass the function setter of useState to actually get the previous cards. You're going to see why in just a moment. And then here, cursor is actually correct. We're going to create a new array of the previous cards, and then we're just going to find that by the ID. Because the ID is the index, we can do that. It's perfectly fine. And then we're going to set it to is flipped and true, and then we're going to return the new cards. That is going to be our state update, and this is going to update our card. So if we come here to our application and actually go to our application this time, so this is what it looks like. I can click on a card, it is going to flip it. I can click on a card, it's going to flip it. And if I click it again, it's not going to do anything because they are flipped, but our application so far works, and I can flip all of these cards. Now, obviously, this is not the point of the game, and now we're going to have to add extra logic to actually do some things if we have a match or if we don't have a match. So for that, we actually want to come in here and create a new function that is going to handle the matching of the cards, the logic that is going to determine if some cards are matched or not, and then the actual update in the state as a result of that match. So we're going to do here function and then handle card match. And then here we're going to do first card and then second card. And now we're going to have a function over here. And now this logic is going to have to determine what we do, if it's a match or not. So first of all, we're going to do const is match. And that is going to be equal to first card dot image URL equals second card dot image URL. So if these are equal, then we're going to have a match. Then what we want to do, and we want to think a bit about the user experience here, what we want to do is we want to set a timeout, because regardless or not if we have a match, we're going to want to perform an action. If we have a match, we're actually going to want to set both of these cards to being matched. If we don't have a match, then we want to reflip those cards and actually set them back to not being flipped so that we can actually select other cards. But regardless of if it's a match or not, we're going to want to do something anyway, so we can just come in here and do set timeout. And here we're going to put it this way, and I'm just going to put an empty function for now. And the timeout is going to be, let's say, 800 milliseconds. And you're going to see this, we're doing this for the user experience. Now, inside of this timeout, what we're going to want to do is essentially we're going to want to make an update to the state. So we're going to want to do set cards, and here we're going to do pref cards. And now again, I'm just going to do this function over here, just like this. And in here, we're going to want to return something. So what are we going to return? So first, we're going to again create a new array. So we're going to do const and then new cards equals, and then we're going to spread the pref cards. And then we're going to check if is a match. So if we have a match, what do we want to do? If we have a match, well, we want to set both of these cards as being matched, both the first card and the second card. So as cursor says here, we're going to set new cards, and then the first card and the second card, we're going to set both of these to matched, and then we're going to set true. However, if we don't have a match, then what do we want to do? Well, we want to flip these back and then set them back to their initial state. So we're going to do else, and then we're going to set here the exact same thing, but we're going to set flipped to false. And that is then going to just flip them back, and that is it. And then we can just return the new cards, and that is going to be the update of the state. Now, here's a little caveat. We're doing this in a set timeout, and then we're also using the set cards function and then passing here pref cards. We use the function updater of useState. The reason we're doing this is because, as you're going to see, now we're going to use this handle card match function inside of this handle card click, and then we're going to use it inside of this set cards here. You can do that in React. You can put multiple states together and nest them together. And because we're using the function version of those, what React is going to do is at the end, it is going to schedule all of these updates one after the other, and it is going to make sure that our state actually reflects the update that we want to do. We're not going to get some out of sync state. We're going to get the state exactly as we need to have it. Now, the last step for us to do is inside of this card click. So after we have the new cards over here, what we need to do is we need to now check after we set is flipped to true, we need to check how many cards are flipped, because if we have two cards that are flipped, then we need to run this handle card match function to check if they're a match. If we don't have two cards that are flipped, we don't need to do anything, and then we just let the user click until they have two cards flipped, and then we're going to run this function, and that is always going to execute something, which is always going to allow our game to continue to be played. So we're going to come in here and we're going to do const flipped cards. And again, cursor knows, we're going to filter the new cards, and we're going to filter for those that are flipped and those that are not matched. This is going to give to us an array of cards. And then what we want to do is essentially we're going to check if flipcards.length is equal to 2. Then we want to call handle card match with the first card and then with the second card. And there we go, handle card match, flip card 1, flip card 2. And now that is going to essentially run our entire function. And honestly, that is it. Let's now go back here to our application. Let's refresh this once again, and let's see what we have. I click one card, it's fine. I can click it again, it doesn't do anything, perfect. I can then click another card, now we have two, it is going to check, is it a match? It was not a match, so it's going to reflip them and not do anything. Now I can click the same card again, we have this one, let's try another one, it is not a match, there you go, it doesn't work. Now if I believe, click this one and this one, oh, now we have a match, now they stay here, and now I can click them and nothing is happening. Our game is working as expected. And now comes the challenge of actually completing this game. So let's see, that's not correct, but I believe I found this. Now we have, there we go. Oh, this is easier than I thought. This is easier than I thought. Okay, let's go. World record. Boom. How fast was that? I don't know. But our game works and it is exactly how we wanted it to. So we've solved the problem. So once again, let's just do a quick recap. So the first thing that we did is we had cards here. We used the updater function of useState to actually get this on the first render, which is better than using useEffect. So if you're doing this in a technical interview, make sure to do that and make sure to mention why you're doing it. Then we have this handle card click. It receives a card and then we check if it's flipped or not. We return. Then we set the cards and we flip the card, and then we check how many cards are flipped. And if we have two, we then check if they're a match using this function. We separated it in a separate function, which is cool. We check here if it's a match, and then regardless, we're going to set a timeout, and then we're going to check here if it's a match. We're going to set both of these to matched. If it's not, we're going to reset the flip to false, and we return the new cards, and our game is fully functional. And so with just two functions and one state variable and just a little bit of code and a little bit of logic, we actually completed this challenge and we created and solved a memory game in React. That's good. You should be proud of yourself. I'll leave a link to this repository in the description below, and I'm actually going to leave a link to this website over here if you're curious and you want to actually check them out. I'm going to give them free publicity because they gave me a free video, so you know, it's a win-win. And yeah, play around with this, make sure that you understand this, and try to replicate this on your own without watching the video and just starting from scratch. I promise you, it is going to make you a better developer. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos just like this one, make sure to leave this video a big thumbs up. You can also click here to subscribe, or you can click here to watch a different video of mine that YouTube seems to think that you're really going to enjoy. And with that being said, my name has been Darius Cousin. This is Cousin Solutions. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao, ciao.